It's real breakfast hours. Eat breakfast if you up. Today's breakfast is...
I had a piece of toast with some raspberry jam.
And I had a little bit of cereal, Captain Crunch, in fact.
Welcome back.
To real breakfast hours. I don't know about you, but it's real breakfast hours 22.
Whoa, Taylor Swift?
I can never escape her, but I had to make the joke.
Yeah, and you won't escape her either, because there's a new Taylor Swift news.
Oh boy. Alright, let's get it out of the way. Hit me with the Taylor Swift news.
Okay. So, Taylor Swift has kind of been wrapping up her Eras tour, except for not really, because she released a bunch of new dates for next year. Some in Florida, I think some in Canada, and a few other handful of places. None close enough for me to consider trying to go for tickets, since I wasn't able to even try for tickets this last time. Although I have seen some of my friends who, once again, live in the general New England area being like, see you in Toronto. I'm like, okay.
So did she go to Boston? She played at the Patriot Stadium,
She did 3 nights in Boston, but the tickets... This is why she's like suing Ticketmaster and
it's
why
because they cost so much. Yeah.
No. Because they were supposed to have tickets, so they did a pre-sale for people who are like her really big fans who had signed up to get the pre-sale like.
So your average Taylor fan.
Yes. There were supposed to be general sale tickets that were still available after that, but Ticketmaster's system just sold all the tickets during the pre-sale, so people who weren't on the pre-sale didn't even have a chance to get in. And also, it was just a really awful situation for everyone that there was these like huge backups, huge queues just to even get a chance to buy a ticket. I think they're still concerned about scalpers and people just buying up tickets to sell them at exorbitant prices. So like there was a lot that went wrong with it. So she sued them.
People are about to start requiring ID to buy tickets.
Well, you should, because scalpers are literally the worst thing on this planet. Like, if you think about Dante's Inferno, I think scalpers probably go to one of the lower levels of that hell, and that's what I'm gonna say about it.
It's fair. It's very fair. The PS5 was the same way when it released.
Yes.
It was like people were buying stacks of PS5s. Like, I'll just pick up 10 PS5s. And eventually Sony themselves decided to get involved. And the way that they dealt with that was that you had to sign on. You could buy a PlayStation through Sony's website, but you had to log in with your PlayStation account. So you had to like show them, I am a PlayStation player and I want a PS5. And then you obviously only have like your own username and password, right? So you would log in and it would say, okay, you can buy one PS5 with that account information. Which, maybe if you're like a mom and you're trying to get a PS5 for your 2 kids, might be a bit of a pain. And same with the Ticketmaster thing, right? Like they can say, okay, show us some ID and you can buy tickets. But what, do I have to show my dad has to show his driver's license to buy one ticket? No. But if he has a 4-year-old daughter,
I think with like the Ticketmaster thing, like normally when they limit tickets, what they should do is like you can get like a handful of tickets.
Like 4.
People will like get like 10 plus tickets because they're planning on scalping them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or at least having some sort of system in place that like maybe if you and a friend are on at the same time, you can say that we're trying to get tickets like in the same area. I don't know how you would work that out, but I do think limiting the amount of tickets people can get is good when you have these things that are so popular and people want to go see because the scalpers be scalping and
they ruin things like this.
They ruin things. So I mean, if there was a way to like track the like IP, or isn't that what it's called?
IP address.
IP address of like every person who's a scalper, and if they could figure that out, who was scalping,
airstrike
like,
every scalper.
Well, just like revoke their access to like things like that. Like you can never buy a PlayStation again now because you did this. Nice try.
What if I call for total scalper death?
Yeah.
Should she suffer? All right, clap if you think she should suffer.
Airstrike scalpers, roundhouse kick scalpers, slam dunk a scalper baby into a dumpster, curb stomp a scalper into the concrete.
So that's your early thing. Oh, I didn't even say what the news is. So Eras Tour is wrapping up and she released new dates, so that's kind of new. But though I think it was like literally, well, I don't know if it was the last night of the Eras Tour. It was one of the last nights because she is ending it in LA. this whole like past week or two, apparently the Swifties have been going crazy because they are convinced that she was going to announce 1989 Taylor's version. And then, like, it was funny for a while because they kept being like, tonight's the night.
I think
and
Taylor
then,
Swift fans might be some of the biggest copers.
Yeah. And they were like, tonight's the night. And it didn't happen. And they'd be like, tomorrow's the night. And then, like, literally the last possible night for them to be right about that, she did announce it. She did. So 1989 Taylor's version is out October something, 23rd or maybe, I don't know. Swifties don't come for me. I just saw this. I'm also excited, but once again, I'm not like a huge Swiftie.
Swifties, I'm looking at you. I'm trying to keep my mouth not shut. I don't want to say anything too foul because we have some very fine individuals who watch this podcast. So Taylor Swift fans, I don't like it.
What the
Take
heck?
that. Come for me.
Really
Put some
not.
views on this video.
I don't. That's.
She disavows
I
me.
disavow him. Yeah.
I'm just saying, stir up some controversy, get some views, am I right?
Well, it hasn't worked yet, so I don't think this is gonna be the time. We have some breakfast that
We
submitted.
do have some breakfast. You want to go first? I think you have at least one.
Yeah, my parents both sent theirs, so I have two. Thank you very much. My mom sent her breakfast, which looks like some toast, some eggs, and some orange juice.
That's one
Looks
from
suspiciously like the table at their camp.
your mom. Oh, is that what they are?
I don't know. It certainly looks like it.
Well, all right. So that's one for you. All right.
Yep, and then my dad, he's got an even bigger
Oh,
one.
he sent the same thing.
He's got 2 pieces of toast, some eggs, a banana, and some orange juice.
Well, I think it's only fair to count them both. So there you go. That's 2 points. It's pretty good. We have one from our main man, Crollo, who sent, he said, I decided to be fat this week. I got a sugar donut and spread some Nutella over it, and of course, milk, TM, on the side. So thank you, Crollo, for your continued support. Gren said that he meant to send his breakfast in, but he just ate it too fast and forgot to take a picture, which, you know what? I have actually definitely done that.
We've definitely done that many times.
But, good effort, I suppose.
Okay.
Thanks,
When was this? Wait, I do have another
Oh, from
submission.
who?
Who was this? I think... Oh, it was Elizabeth. I took a screenshot of hers. Okay. Elizabeth sent me some breakfast. She said, fresh raspberries and vanilla yogurt. Looks pretty tasty.
Okay, there you go. That was 3 for Team MacLeod today, and only 1 for me.
Yeah.
We still have the lead, but only by 1 point now, so...
Let's go! This is the certified MacLeod dub! Ah.
Celebrating 2nd place.
Not for long, okay? This is about a trend that you've been only getting like 1 and I'm getting
Yeah,
multiple.
my friends have really slowed down. I praised you guys for weeks for your continued support, and now it's been like 2 weeks where only Crollo's sent anything. Come on, guys. I need your help. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Or don't. It's okay if you don't.
It's not okay if you don't.
Okay. So Taylor Swift 1989. That's my first point. Do you have a point?
Do I have a point? No, because I'm not a square. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm around.
That's embarrassing.
I think that's what it was, right? It was like
Yes.
be there, be square, because you're not around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, why don't we talk about what we're doing today?
Okay. You can tell them.
We are going to Six Flags, New England. You've only ever been there, what, 2 times?
Yeah. No, 3. Because so my cousin used to work there as the Wonder Woman, I guess, when I was little. But she wasn't working there when we went. But, like, it was a thing. So we went when I was young once. Then we went for my senior trip. And then we went once.
Yes, and you were very disheartened because you wanted to go to the little haunted mansion thing and it was shut down.
If that thing is not open, next week you're going to see me calling for the total annihilation of Six Flags.
Total Six Flags death.
Yeah, because if I can't go on this stupid Houdini haunted house ride, I'm going to flip a table.
You heard it here first. But yeah, I've always been a real big fan of roller coasters. My favorite one was always the Superman ride at Six Flags New England. I remember it was Superman originally, and then in like the 2010s they changed it to Bizarro, and they just gave it like a purple coat of paint. I don't know why. And then they changed it back to Superman again, like in 2018 or sometime, like late 2010s, but pre-coronavirus.
A true Superman dub.
Yeah, a major Superman win for sure. Very good ride. Excited to ride it today. Usually we don't go on one more than one time, like because there's so many in there and the lines and all that. But that should be exciting. Should be fun. And then I think we're going to go to dinner after. It takes 3 hours to get there from here, so it is a full day event. Overslept this morning, so a little bit of an oof.
But yeah, we should have already had this filmed and be on our way by now, but someone didn't check what his alarm was set for.
Well, so I set the alarm for the right time,
Yeah.
but I accidentally set it for weekdays only and not every day. So it just didn't go off this morning. So then at like 8:10, I was like, this is a suspicious amount of sleep. What time is it? The sleep was indeed suspicious. We are
You know, and the
oversleeping.
thing is that, because you said you set it for like 7:30, right?
Yeah.
I had like woken up at like 7:20.
Yeah,
Because
woke
I
up.
felt like it was a suspicious amount of sleep, but I looked and I was like, oh, well, the alarm will go off in a little bit, so I'll go back to sleep.
Yeah, I also woke up before the alarm, realized, oh, I still have time, and went back to bed. So we gooned a little bit, but I'll take the L on that one. That's my fault. But that's okay. We'll, I guess just cut this one just a little short.
Yeah.
Around that 45-minute mark, probably. What else?
Well, I have something that might be controversial. So, I've been hearing things. Have you heard anything about the new, like, Disney Snow White live-action movie?
I have, and none of it has been good.
Yeah, right? So, the person they cast as Snow White, what is her name? Like, Rachel Zegler or something?
I don't know.
I don't know. First of all, it's a questionable choice. I'm just gonna say it. If the character is named Snow White, it is questionable to have a person play the character who is not pale.
Yeah, the original description of the character Snow White is that she has like a lips as red as a rose and like skin as pale as snow, right? That's why they call her Snow White, and her hair is like black as coal or something. But the person that they cast is like a Hispanic woman who, she's lovely and all that, but like if you put up like 10 people and said which of these is Snow White, I would never pick her.
Right. And like, okay, as a pale girl, this is just like pale erasure. We don't always get characters who are pale because everyone nowadays is like, oh, you should be tan. Well, I don't want to be tan. I like being pale. So where's my representation?
Need more porcelain women, right?
Yeah. No, but that's not even like. I do think that was a little bit silly to do that. Like, with the Little Mermaid, like it wasn't as big of a deal because it's not about her. Like, it's just like that she has the red hair, but like it's not so big of a like, oh, well, she needs to be a certain color. But like,
They dyed her hair a little bit red.
yeah, no, her hair. I mean, it wasn't like the bright red. I think it would have been fun if they had still given her bright red, but at least it was like ginger kind of like hair, so at least it was still kind of the same idea. So I don't mind that. But if the character is literally called Snow White, I'm just like, why? It's like,
Well, and also you know that it has to be a conscious choice because somebody somewhere along production has to have said, shouldn't we cast like a really pale girl? And then somebody goes, no, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, but it is. That's what the movie's about.
And this is the other part of it, is that everything I've heard recently about the actress playing her is not good. Like, she does not seem like a good person. I don't know if you saw the interviews she did about Snow White, but in them she's been like, no, I hate Snow White. I hated Snow White as a kid. I don't like the story. There's not going to be a prince. She's not going to be saved. She's not a damsel in distress. I'm like, why not just make your own movie then? Like, people enjoy the original movie. They enjoy the storyline. Whether you think it's problematic or not, it's still a story that deserves to be told. Like, stories can be problematic and still deserve to be told. You don't have to make everything like oh well, this is a 21st century one, so she don't need no man.
Not even everything needs to be considered problematic either. Like the last however many Disney movies did not have any princesses getting rescued by a prince, right?
No.
When was the last time that we got a movie like that? Just saying.
Right.
Why'd you stop? You were making a point.
No, I don't know what your point is in relation to mine.
You were calling it problematic, and I was like, it doesn't even, like, it's not necessarily problematic.
Like, they're saying that it's problematic that she's rescued. That's their point. I'm not saying it is. They're saying it's problematic that it's a woman getting saved by a prince and that she doesn't have, like, any agency in her own film kind of stuff. The same thing they do with Sleeping Beauty. But you know what? The Sleeping Beauty makeovers were actually a lot better because it wasn't even focused on Sleeping Beauty. It was focused on Maleficent. And it still had, like, that was a more interesting twist on the story than, like, oh, well, we're going to do Snow White, but there's no prince to save her, or at least, like, if there is a prince, it's not, like, a huge part of it, and, like, I don't know. And also, why are you casting someone who doesn't even like the character? Or, like, didn't even... Like, with The Little Mermaid, there's, like, lots of interviews that... Wait, it's Halle Bailey is like, yeah, I love this, like, growing up. I love The Little Mermaid, blah, blah, blah. Which is like, yeah, that makes sense that you would want to play this character. Why does she want to play Snow White if she hates Snow White?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't like the casting. I don't like the... I've seen some of those interviews where she was like, this isn't going to be your grandma's Snow White. Like, what if I wanted it to be, you know? Like, what if when I see, oh, they're doing a live-action remake of a classic film, I just want the classic film, but in live action.
Yeah.
Not a totally different story.
And we've had a lot of... Not by Disney, obviously, but we've had a lot of live-action Snow White movies that, like, flip the script on its head.
Snow White and the Huntsman, right?
Snow White and the Huntsman. There's, like, Mirror, Mirror, I think is one of them. I don't know. There's, like, a ton of Snow White adjacent or, like, Snow White inspired live-action movies that don't do, like, the traditional Snow White storyline. So you don't have to make it a not traditional... Like, you are literally the company who made this traditional thing. You're going to do a live action. Yes, I understand wanting to have some parts of it different, to have some, like, new element to it, but you don't have to, like, change it so much that it's not even the original storyline. You know what I mean?
Like getting rid of the dwarves.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what they're going to call them, if they're still going to be considered dwarves, but they're no longer, like, a nearly identical looking short guys. They are now, like, a multicultural, some of them are women, just like a band of misfits. I don't know what the angle is they're going with that, because I don't think they've released, like, what they're calling them. I think they're just magical creatures. They look weird. I've seen the set photos and I'm like, these are the 7 dwarves?
I also saw a set photo of her in her costume and it looked real bad. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Hold on, let me try and find it. While I look for this, let me also say that I recently found out that she is also the main, like, female actress in the new Hunger Games movie. And now that I've heard these things about her, I am very concerned.
She has apparently no respect for source material at all.
So I'm like, okay, great. She's in that, and from everything I've heard, it sounds like she's not... She should just not be in movies.
She looks weird.
Is that not, like, the worst? That looks like a Party City costume. What am I looking at?
I will also say that she looks a little funny because she has the Uggs on, but that's, like, not fair.
No, but even taking out the Uggs, I'm not talking about that. Look at, like, this material. Look at the colors. It's, like, a clashing. Like, it doesn't look good. Like, I have seen so many cosplayers that make, like, Snow White dresses that look incredible, and this literally looks like you could get this at Party City. It looks
Speaking
bad.
of getting things at Party City, the Ken outfits for Halloween
Or the Spirit Halloween.
Oh, it was my mistake.
At least that I've seen.
They're about to go crazy. It's really a matter of which Ken outfit do I want to represent this Halloween. Part of me wants to wear the mink with the big fur coat. Another part of me wants to do the one where he's got, like, the fingerless gloves and, like, the black vest.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun that could be had there. You would need a matching
It's gonna
Barbie.
be a good Halloween. Lots of Barbies, including us.
I saw a meme. It was all the Barbies right now were Wednesday Addams last year.
I wasn't Wednesday.
No, not you. But
I'm Barbie.
it's like the same girls who were Harley Quinn for Halloween after
Well,
watching the Suicide Squad. And then they were
a
Wednesday.
little bit, but there's different. It's not a complete one-to-one for these groups, you know. The girls who did Harley Quinn, some of the girls are the same that will do Barbie, but some of them were more of the girls who watch those movies, because obviously there's girls who did Harley Quinn who probably didn't even see the movie, but they were just like, oh.
All right, those are the types I'm talking about. Because there are people who, if I see a movie, they like a character, they dress up as a character. There's nothing wrong with that. But then there are other people, the kinds who spend a lot of time on Instagram, for example, only peripherally even know about the character, and they'll go, oh my god, she's like it right now. Right, so time to be her for Halloween. And then next year there'll be another it girl who they'll go as for Halloween and so forth.
Yeah.
Which, do whatever you want, but I am saying it's like a pattern.
Also, other things I had heard about Rachel Ziegler, or whatever, is that, on so many of her past movies, she was just like, yeah, I just did it because I wanted a job, which is, kind of, valid, but also it's just, none of her track record on working on movies seems good.
Well, it's also, don't say the quiet part out loud. I have a job because I need money, obviously. But you don't say that,
Right, at least act like you're interested in what you're doing. For actors, it's, kind of a bigger thing, you know what I mean? Especially if you're going to be in a lot of, big movies that are based on media that people really enjoy, like books and things like that. You should at least act like you're interested in that, because if you're not, then the fans are just going to hate you and wish that someone else was playing that part that actually enjoyed it.
That reminds me of how I will never forgive Hollywood Fair, how they treat Henry Cavill. Especially the Witcher staff. We've probably talked about that before in this show. But Witcher Season 3 is out right now. We haven't watched a single episode. Part of me wants to, part of me doesn't want to, because I know that Henry Cavill won't be in Season 4, so I'm not going to watch Season 4, so why do I want to watch Season 3? And also, I've heard that the quality of Season 3 is nowhere near as good as 1 and 2. Just from, a writing perspective, The Witcher feels like this was already a little bit of a problem in Seasons 1 and 2, but Henry Cavill was so good that it didn't matter. Mm-hmm. The Witcher feels like a side character in his own show a lot of the time.
Yeah. We
see way more of, Triss and Yennefer than we see of Geralt, it feels like. And Ciri, of course. And I know that they're very important characters and people like them, and I find them, they're fine. I have no real complaints about, Ciri. Ciri's great. But we do see, more of them than we see of Geralt, which is messed up, because it's The Witcher. He's The Witcher. We should see The Witcher. And I've heard that problem is even worse in Season 3.
because I feel like it was, I don't know. I feel like early in Season 1 it wasn't an issue. Then once they did a lot with Yennefer, which, I agree about that. I feel like Season 2, I didn't see it as much, because, the stuff where they show Ciri, she's with Geralt, so, it's not, they're both there, you know what I mean?
Well, I feel like for most of those episodes, it'll be Ciri for the first 2/3 of the episode, and then some monster attacks her, so then Geralt takes over.
I don't know, I feel like they were both in all of them. I mean, maybe not, all of them, but they were both in there for enough that I didn't mind, and at this point, to me...
My Siri is listening because we were talking about Cilla from...
to me, the story is, him and Ciri, so, I like that. I don't care about Yennefer, though. I don't like that.
And Yennefer takes up a lot of screen time.
Yeah, I don't like when it goes to that. Because I'm just I don't care. I just want to see the story of... Because, I don't know. It's like The Last of Us. I just like a story of a disgruntled man with a young girl.
Oh, that's why...
taking a, dad role.
The Mandalorian was a dad show, too.
Yeah. So, I would never complain about seeing Baby Yoda. And I wouldn't complain about seeing Ellie, because, I'm to me, the main character is both of them. So
it's they occupy one space.
Yeah. So to me, if I see either of them, I'm okay.
And then The Mandalorian kind of did the same thing, where, Bo-Katan was just getting a bunch of screen time.
Yeah.
And... I understand. I am a Star Wars fan. I watched the Clone Wars. I've seen all the movies. Obviously, I read some of the books. The Vader comics are very, very good. So I know Bo-Katan. I care a little bit about Bo-Katan. I care about the Mandalorian culture. I saw what it looked like before, during, and after the Siege of Mandalore. So seeing Mandalorian royalty, who is Bo-Katan because she was there before, try to reclaim her home planet and reestablish Mandalorian culture is cool. Not in the show about Mando. Like, I know he's the Mandalorian, so it is his culture too and all that, and that's why he's there. But he sort of felt secondary in a handful of those episodes.
Yeah, but he also, like, I don't know. I guess, like, for me, and maybe this is not really, like, a defense of this. In a way, you could say this is also bad, but, like, I feel like he took over Book of Boba Fett.
Yes, so, which is also bad.
But, like, I feel like I got some of the content of him, so, like, okay, we can have a little...
It's like, I love Mando. But that was not his show to take over. So then it's not, that makes it 2 shows that have been taken over by secondary characters.
Yeah, but I just love Mando so much, so I'm not mad about it. Especially because literally the Book of Boba Fett was so mid, and then he showed up, and I was like, this is great.
It was literally like...
It was so good as soon as he got there.
If the Book of Boba Fett was like 7 episodes, the first 3 of them were bad. Then 2 of them were literally just episodes of The Mandalorian. And then number 7 is him working with Boba Fett. And the back half was the best parts of the show because it just felt like Mandalorian episodes. But that's bad. That's not good. It's bad.
I thought it was good.
Yeah. So, you know what? Little side note about Snow White and those mythical creatures or whatever the heck. Peter Dinklage is so funny to me because he's like the only famous dwarf in Hollywood. I'm trying to think of what the nicest way to...
I know some of them like go by like little people.
Yes, but I have heard some of them dwarf because it's dwarfism is what they have, right? So I guess I'm gonna go with dwarf. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I guess I'm sorry. I'm trying to be nice. He's like the only famous dwarf, and you see him in all these movies, and he's a good actor. However, it's funny that he like got to the top and then kicked the ladder down by saying that it was wrong and offensive to have dwarves in Snow White and the 7 Dwarves. So, like, he quite literally has cost 7 other little people jobs by telling them, no, you can't cast those people. There should be no dwarves. It's offensive. Like, what? You made your whole career off of playing little guys. Can't you give someone else a chance? I guess they couldn't cast 7 Peter Dinklages, otherwise he would have been okay with it. What are you looking up what he prefers to be called?
Yeah, I was trying to see, but then this article just says that he doesn't care about political correctness about dwarfism.
That's kind of based. I mean, I like that.
But it's also like some weird like Indian like thing.
No. Well, back in my day...
Why is that what came up?
You used to just call them midgets. I thought that was...
Oh, I don't think that's good. I think dwarf would be better than that.
I didn't even know that word was like that. I thought that was just what they were. They changed what they called them in Borderlands. There was a whole enemy type called midgets. And in Borderlands 3, they changed their name to Tink. Like Tink. Which, to me, feels like more offensive. Like you're just making up some silly word to call these little guys?
I don't know. I think dwarf is probably okay. He doesn't say anything about it. At least I can find. I don't know. If someone knows.
Oh, person with dwarfism.
Yeah.
It's weird that Peter Dinklage has made it so that 7 people with dwarfism cannot get jobs playing literal fantasy dwarves. So, good job, I guess.
Here's something for you. It's actually 2 somethings, but they wrap up together very nicely because, unfortunately, we're back to the Florida hate showdown.
Oh, Lord. Can't get away from it.
Every time I hear something about Florida, it just gets worse. So, the first thing that I saw was that the people who do the AP exams, you know, the advanced placement stuff, basically were like, AP Psych is not going to be able to be taught in Florida schools because Florida has the rule that you can't teach about gender or sexuality like at all, even in a high school, which is where AP classes are. And because it is a part of the AP Psych curriculum, and you have to teach to the AP curriculum, like you can't just choose not to teach part of it. They just can't have AP Psych in Florida at all, which is so stupid. Like, having literally majored in psychology and having a whatever, like, BA in psych, the types of things that you learn about gender and sexuality in a psychology class are not even that, like, it's not like they're explicit. It's just like, hey, people have different views of their own sexuality, or, well, their own gender, and, like, people exist with different sexualities. And, like, I guess maybe if you talk about, like, the Freud stuff, like, maybe that
Freud
would be,
is
like,
a bit of a weirdo, but you can't do any psych without talking about Freud. So.
right. And so, like, but, like, honestly, the Freud stuff is not really sexuality. It's sex stuff, but not sexuality, you know what I mean? But, like, his stuff sometimes is, like, worse, right, than actually a conversation about just, like, oh, well, some people think they are a gender that doesn't align with, like, what they were born into. That's, like, a pretty simple thing to say, and honestly, I don't think psych ever gets, like, at least in a high school AP course, I sincerely doubt it gets much deeper than that, because it didn't really get that much deeper than that in any of my college psychology classes.
That just made me think of something that, you know, you guys, you know Daredevil from Marvel Comics?
Yeah.
They were doing this thing where they were going to make a movie about his female counterpart, but they thought it would be too like, high level, too hard to understand. If you don't believe me, Google Electra Complex.
You silly. Don't do that. I mean, it's fine. It's not, like, that bad.
That's got nothing to do with Marvel Comics.
But, yeah. It just, anyways. So, no more AP Psych in Florida schools, which is a shame, because I know for a lot of people, when you take AP courses, well, one, it's just nice because you get credits for college, which is nice, and a lot of people have to take a psychology class, or at least some equivalent, in college, because it's, like, an easy, like, gen ed thing. So they could take it in high school and then not have to take it in college. That would save them time and money. So, like, that's one thing that is bad about. But also, just, like, people just like to learn about new things, and it's kind of silly that you're preventing these kids from learning about something just because it ever has a chance of mentioning gender and sexuality. Like, it's just too much, you know what I mean? Like, it has really become, I don't know, I don't want to say witch hunt kind of thing, but what's the kind of word, like, I just want to say, like, it's like a hysteria at this point about gender and sexuality. Like, they are so afraid for kids to ever learn anything that, oh, people exist that have different views than you. Ooh, people have different gender expressions than what's normal. Or, ooh, gay people exist. Oh my god, the horrors. Don't tell the children. I'm like, this is just too much. Like, it exists in our world. They're gonna find out eventually. And I'm sorry, but a kid is not going to be irrevocably. No, irrevocably is what I want to say. Well, I guess.
Irrevocably, yeah, I guess.
Irrevocably. That's not how you say that. Yeah.
Just go with irreparably.
Okay, well, they're not going to be irreparably damaged from hearing that gay people exist. I'm tired of pretending like this is a big deal. It's just like with the critical race theory. Like, this stuff is either not happening the way you think it is, or it is simply not that big of a deal. Like, end of. I'm so sick of these places having this, like, demonization of just expressing that people with different, like, ideas, identities exist.
I think the biggest issue, for me anyway, is that I understand not wanting to talk about sexuality and things like that with children. I do. I really do. I don't want them to be, like, there's no reason that your 9-year-old needs to be talking about sex, right? However, there's a big difference between a 9-year-old and a 16-year-old. And especially with, like, iPhones and stuff, they have, everybody's got, like, a Twitter, X.
Yeah.
You are going to see these bad things, good or bad, I suppose. And I understand not wanting to teach about them to literal children, but it is an AP psychology class that is only offered to high schoolers. High schoolers that are old enough to be driving cars, and like if you're a senior, right, you can go die in a war or whatever. And I have other complaints about, I would say things like smoke cigarettes, drink alcohol, buy guns, but they changed all those to 21. But don't worry, you're still old enough at 18 to get drafted and go die, right? You're an adult only when it's helpful to the state, but not when it's fun for you, right? Same with 16. You can have a job and pay taxes and stuff, but you can't do any of the actual serious adult things at 16. But the point I'm trying to make here is that you are old enough as a high schooler to be exposed to more arguably good or bad things, right? So that I don't get why they restrict these things from high schools specifically.
To me, like, I think even saying that you can't ever teach about this stuff to little kids is kind of stupid, because just like we were saying, Snow White kisses a guy and is in a relationship, and like, yes, you don't have to say the sex part, but you could easily say, like, sometimes people fall in love with people, like a guy, like a girl falls in love with a guy, sometimes a girl falls in love with a girl. You don't have to say, like, and then they have sex. But if you're gonna have all this media where, like, it's just the thing that people act like just because it's gay, it's inherently sexual. That's not true. If it was, we wouldn't have any media for young kids where people fall in love. That's just the end of it. Like, I'm so sick of these people acting like being in a gay relationship is inherently sexual. It is not more inherently sexual than a heterosexual relationship. And you know even why? How many times do we say that, like, oh, hey, mom and dad, we're pregnant, you just told your parents you had sex. Like, at the end of the day, having kids is, oh, we had sex, but that no one bats an eye at that. And I'm not saying to say we had sex. Sorry, I'm not saying, like, obviously, yes, you should not talk about sex to little kids. I'm just saying I don't think it's wrong to say that some people are in love with people of the opposite sex or gender, whatever you want to say. Yeah, and others are in love with the same. Like, I don't think that's inherently bad. I don't think it's a big deal for little kids, like, 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds to know that sometimes people fall in love with people who look like them.
Yeah, there are ways that you can go about it that are appropriate for younger audiences. I think there are a lot of ways that are very gross and inappropriate to discuss with younger audiences. And I think that there is some of that stuff that does go on that people, like, really try to defend themselves, like, oh, I'm not, like, children at pride parades. Keep them out of there. I've seen too many videos of, like, really disgusting stuff that goes on at those types of events, and then there's just, like, children in this crowd.
I don't know.
And if you're a parent,
like,
don't bring your kids to that.
To me, like, I went to the Portland Pride Parade, and there really was not anything that gross. The worst thing I saw was that someone at the very end was, like, kind of topless but had, like, the pasties on. Like, that was the worst I saw. But for most of the parade, it was just normal people. It was either us walking, and we all were just dressed up in, like, rainbows, but it was all appropriate. And then people on the sides were just dressed like normal or in rainbows, and they were just cheering us on as we watched.
We also live in Maine.
Yeah.
Not in Portland, Oregon, or LA.
Like, to me, I would be perfectly fine bringing a kid to the Portland, because I literally did not see anything bad.
But you would have probably had to cover their eyes at the very end there, that person you just said.
Well, but I'm saying if you were one of the people who was on the side earlier, you would have never even seen that person.
I know, but to say that it wasn't there is just not true.
Yeah. But also, like, to me, it's also just the kind of thing where, like, I don't know. I do think our country is just a little bit too anal, I guess, about, like, purity and stuff. Like, people in Europe, like, are not worried about that. I mean, when I was in Berlin for a summer, a pride parade, not really a parade, but there was, like, a pride thing going on in Berlin while I was there. And one time me and my friends came through and we were like, oh, this is different. There was, like, a drag queen performing at the Brandenburg Gate. It was fun, but, like, I'm just, like, there was people who were basically naked there. That's a little bit much, but like maybe not the whole like male sex organ out that I can see. Like maybe that was a little bit much, but I'm just saying like a topless woman is kind of not the end of the world, and I think sometimes America is a little bit too like puritanical about some of this stuff. I think there could be an in-between Europe and America, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying like, and I took that human sexuality course in college, and they were also talking about like the way that we talked about sexuality and like safe sex and stuff with kids is like so different than it is like in, you know, Sweden or whatever, like places in Europe. And they don't have rates of teen pregnancy as high as like we do, because it's just something that they like talk about with their kids and they know.
I don't strictly agree that it is too much here. I think in some places, sure. But like in general, like day-to-day living, I don't ever feel like I'm like, we're too prude, you know? And I feel like you go to the beach and you see some of the things that specifically women are wearing. Like they get pretty close to just not wearing anything at all.
Yeah.
And like that stuff. Oh, hello, Mr. Raw.
Oh, hi, bud.
Rubbing up on our legs. We are running short on time. But point is, there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on. Some of it is not nearly as bad as some people make it out to be, but there is stuff that exists that is bad.
Yeah.
And you got to be real careful with what you expose your kids to.
And then the other thing I just wanted to say about Florida was that they also have, I don't know if there's like some kind of agreement they have with Prager University or whatever.
Oh my god, I hate those guys.
But they are basically, PragerU made a bunch of videos. Oh, by the way, like in case you weren't aware, Prager University is not a real university, so don't.
It's like Hustlers University from Andrew Tate, where
Yeah.
you're just a handful of people who claim to be a university because you claim to be educating people.
Yeah. But anyways, they are making videos to play in Florida schools now, and this is how they're going to teach some of the stuff. And I encourage you to like look this up and go watch some of them, but really some of them are like genuinely horrifying. I personally was a little bit offended by some of the female, like there was like, oh, well, what is it to be a woman or a man? And it was like, oh, well, you don't need a job. You should be happy just being a housewife and this kind of stuff. I mean, I assume they're not saying you have to do that, but the way it read is they did not talk about, oh, well, you can do anything you want. You could be a working woman. You could be a doctor. They only focus, at least in the clip I saw, I don't know, I haven't seen it all, so maybe this is me with egg on my face, but it was just like focusing on the like housewife and raising kids part, which is like, listen, I know that this is Florida and they're already awful about everything, but like, God, please. But the worst part was that they were showing things like, oh, these characters go to back in time and they visit different historical figures, and one of them was Christopher Columbus, and they were just like, well, back in our day, in 2023, slavery is bad, and he's like, wow, that's amazing, I'm so glad humanity has come so far that it can be, slavery is seen as a bad thing, but you can't judge me because of the culture and time that I come from, because wouldn't that be messed up to judge me? And then they're like, and then he's like, yeah, of course there's some things that are always not okay, but other, like, implying that, like, slavery is okay, like, just because,
like murder was wrong, but slavery is okay.
Yeah, I'm like, see, you almost had it. You almost had the point, saying that, yeah, some things should always be seen as not okay, but he's not including slavery in that. And yes, I understand, like, obviously that was the culture at the time, but I don't know, like, do we really need to be, like, defending slavery right now? Like, is that a thing that we need to do?
Yeah, I always felt like that was weird. Like, you can respect and appreciate, like, the impact that people like Columbus had. And, like, America wouldn't be the same if Christopher Columbus hadn't happened, right? And you can respect that and, like, honor Columbus in your own way or whatever. But you don't have to sit here and be like, oh, well, the slavery was okay then.
Yeah.
That just seems like a weird stance to take, you know?
And they just had, like, black slave videos, you know, like, Booker T. Washington and, like, Frederick Douglass. And they did interviews with them, but they were, like, it was always a weird thing where they're like, well, slavery is bad, but God, am I proud to be an American? I'm like, I don't know if that's what they would have said, because they were actively fighting slavery.
Frederick Douglass is funny to me because he has like that skunk thing going on with his hair.
He does, yeah.
And he wrote like 3 books about himself or something, which is cool because I'm pretty sure he taught himself to read and write.
That's cool.
Which is also cool.
But yeah, so I mean, go look them up if you want, but also you might just get mad like I did. Like for a while, I was like, I just can't even think about what I just saw because I am mad, and I can't do anything about it because Florida is run basically by a dictator right now. So.
And Prager University has a long history of being wacky and stupid. Feel free to go watch any of their videos. That it's like they'll post 10 things, and in those 10 videos, they'll have like 10 talking points. And maybe 20% of what they say total is like, oh, that makes sense, I agree. And then the rest is like, are you sure about that?
Yeah, like I just couldn't believe that they were ever like trying to defend slavery. But that's what they're doing in Florida right now is they're like sanitizing content, they are like censoring stuff, and they are trying to change history. It's just like, that's just what they're doing. Florida's still bad, it continues to get worse. So sorry if you live there.
I think people who live in Florida are also sorry they live there.
Sorry.
Not necessarily for the politics, but for like driving on 95 and stuff like that. I've heard is nothing short of horrendous in Florida.
People be wacky, and also when they drive down there, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Mass is pretty bad, but
not as bad as New Jersey.
And not as bad as Florida.
We gotta go.
Okay.
Thank you for watching. That was a whole lot.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe.
Get mad at us in the comments.
Send us your breakfast. Oh, next week we hope to do a frozen breakfast review tier list. We don't know what it's actually going to be, but some kind of thing where we try different frozen breakfasts because we saw, what is it, Brutal Moose?
Yes.
Yeah, he did one of those. We've been watching him recently. Shout out to him. Obviously, he doesn't need it from us.
Let's collaborate, Brutal Moose.
Yeah, but he's so fun. His editing is incredible, actually. So we're going to do that next week. So if there's a frozen breakfast food that you want us to try, be sure to let us know.
Thank you for watching.